Hi guys, welcome back. Feels like ages since I last did a recording, but I finished my work stint for the week, so hopefully I'll have a few battles coming up over the next few days. And right here, we have my first ever online game as Norsca, which is pretty damn exciting. So for the front line, I have gone for a big, chunky, I believe 4 units of Marauder Berserkers. So these guys, nice high damage dealers, very little armour, as you can see, kind of nutcases, and the longer they stay in battle, the more damage they do, which is quite nice. They have the Berserk trait, so as you can see there, if they're in there for 30 seconds or more, they get plus 22 physical resistance, and you can see down there, each stage, every 30 seconds they stay in combat, they get extra buffs, which is very nice. I think they'd be able to tear apart bleak swords and dread spears and stuff quite comfortably. I'm not quite sure how they'd trade with Witch Elves, both of them being kind of lightly armoured damage dealers, but I thought they'd be quite nice in the front line. Now just behind them, I have a couple of units of Marauder Hunters, so these guys are throwing axes. They're quite close combat, not that much range, but they do a lot of armour piercing, and I was a little worried I didn't have enough armour piercing in my army or anti-large, so I thought they'd be quite nice. Now the Fullen in the back, I have 2 more units, and they are Skin Wolves, which are the armoured variety. Now I brought these guys mainly because they're werewolves, and I have a big thing for wolves. I really like wolves, including werewolves. I think they have an unfair rap in kind of movies and films at the moment. But I brought them really quite a decent unit overall. I thought they're quite fast, so I was going to keep them back, protect the back line, and then flank round. I didn't realise till partway through the battle these guys actually have a bonus versus large, so they're quite nice at dealing with cav. Now for my leadership, I have gone for Wulfric the Wanderer, this big beast here, the challenger, on his flaming horse with all his good skull trophies. Very good assassin and duelist, so he's going to be quite nice there. Next to him, I do have a Shaman Sorcerer of Death, who's brought, I believe, just 2 spells. Here we go. Ferbuna and Spirit Leech. So Spirit Leech, good against single combatants. Ferbuna, good against units. Now I do have a couple of units right out on the flanks. I've got a couple of Ice Wolves hiding in the corner over there. The Regiment Round version over here, the Beast of Tashnar, and a couple of Marauder Horsemen for a bit of light skirmish. Now for my opponent today, he is playing Dark Elves with a front line of Dread Spears, just there to, hold the line and absorb the shock damage of the charge. In the back, he does have 2 units of Shade, so these guys are hidden at the moment. They'll be doing a lot of good range damage, and I was quite scared of these guys when I did finally notice them. In the back, he does have 3 units of Witch Elves, who are going to be running in after these Dread Spears have taken the charge. These guys are pretty lightly armoured, but they do a ton of damage against infantry, and they can force people to rampage, which is nice. He also has the Regiment Renowned Executioners, the Blades of the Blood Queen. These guys are pretty damn hardcore. There's some badass swords they have kind of resting over their shoulders. My opponent, his leader today, is Malekith on his little dinosaur chariot. He's kind of a wizard, but he also can do close combat pretty good, especially when he's on his chariot. So a lot of good armor piercing and so on and forth there. Now on the flanks, he does have 2 units of Cold One Knights. These guys scared me quite a lot when I initially saw them, because I wasn't 100% sure Skin Wolves did damage against anti-large. So I'm going to be forcing my Marauder Horseman round to try and get a little bit of poke damage nice and early. So let's get this battle underway. So both units, or armies here, just moving up to each other, testing his defence with a little bit of poke on the side. Now, at this moment, I'd seen the Shades, because earlier on my Marauder Horseman did a little drive-by and saw them. So I was trying to push forward as fast as possible. And yeah, I even bring the Wolves out here, and then they're a bit too far away from the bow, even though they were nice and hidden. And these are Ice Wolves, so they do slow down people when they bite them, which is very nice. And allows you to really kind of pick them off and chase down, routing units very effectively. So at this point, my opponent also stopped moving. Even though they had the range advantage, I thought, well, there's no real point here, me kind of advancing just into, waves and waves of bolts. So instead, I move my Marauder Horseman round the side, get a little bit of poke on these cold ones, hitting them from behind so their shields won't matter. Doing a quite nice little bit of damage over there. Well, on the left-hand side, I move my Shaman up and drop a good old Ferbuna on these guys to really try and kind of, force down their health and make these cold ones not as useful in the battle. I was kind of scared I didn't have enough anti-large. Again, I didn't realise at this point Skin Wolves had, bonus versus large. So I was really trying to focus down these 2 units of cav, and you see it's doing pretty well. My opponent is still sitting back, but soon he's going to realise that at the moment, I'm just out skirmishing him at the moment, so he's going to have to force himself forward, or at least use these Shades to kind of fend off the Marauder Horseman. There we go, guys. You can hear the horn there to sound the advance, and in come the Dark Elves. I'm reading a book actually. I've stopped after the first one of the Malice Darkblade, I believe it's called. He's like a Dark Elf hero. His story. The Dark Elves. It's kind of made me much more of a fan of the Dark Elves reading that. They're very cool. So I can see the Commons are slightly isolated over on the side here. So I charge in both units of wolves, plus the Marauder Berserkers, plus get some throwing axes, and just really trying to get these guys down as quick as possible. Bring the Marauder Horsemen over as well to do a bit of extra poke. The front line has engaged, guys, and we can see the Berserkers absolutely tearing these guys apart. They're going to destroy Red Spears quite comfortably. The Witch Elves and these heavier units are starting to come in. So throwing axes just being Kobe'd up over the top there, trying to finish off these guys as quick as possible. And we've got a little boat coming down there from Wulfric the Wanderer. Just going to catch some of those Witch Elves and go through that front line quite nicely. Now on the left hand side I also managed to isolate these cold ones, charging the Skin Wolves who do have regeneration. So if they take damage but they don't lose too many units, you can just simply stay out the fight for a little while, regenerate and pop straight back in. So you've got quite good durability, hitting these guys with a 2-on-1 and take them down. Murderous Prowess has popped for my opponent there, so when Dark Elves do enough damage or enough carnage has been caused in the battle as a whole, they do get a boost for kind of a limited time. Getting some of these thrown axes onto these shades. I'm quite impressed with these guys, first time using them obviously. They do quite a lot of damage, it's just quite short range. There we see, they come flying in, doing some nice damage to these shades. Skin Wolves are popped in the front, trying to help out a little bit and get them on top of these shades. They're trying to force their way through and really hunt these guys down. Wulfric's popped in, I was trying to get onto Malekith. Wulfric has a really nice ability. I'll see the name of it, I believe it's called Headhunter's the Skaven version, there it is. Hunter of Champions, which really kind of decreases the attack power of enemy lords and heroes. But my opponent does bring in the Blades of the Blood Queen and is really focusing down Wulfric, who's in quite a lot of trouble. Some more Horsemen have been pulled around the side just to kind of throw into this blob. I've got some Skin Wolves in the back who have popped on top of these shades. Now I've managed to win most of the front line. My opponent has brought back a lot of his forces. He's trying to force kind of a big blob fight here. But at the moment I'm quite happy to take this. I have the Marauder Horsemen just constantly throwing axes in, and it's pretty hard to miss when you have this many units. My Marauders are going a bit berserk in here, and they're holding their own. They've been in combat a long time, and they're doing a lot of damage, even though they are lightly armoured and they're going to be picked apart by these very elite troops here. So I've got some hounds in the back, just trying to chase down these troops. I really don't want any cold ones coming back. And a lot of the shades have been compromised by these Skin Wolves, who are armoured very fast and regeneration, so they're pretty good against missile play. Wulfric has come back, just dropping a few spells down there, just chilling on the side at the moment, trying to encourage the troops from afar, not wanting to get too involved with the little amount of health. Now these Skin Wolves in here, and all the throwing axes keep popping in. My opponent's army is starting to break. You see a lot of units have full on shattered and some are broken. The Malekith is still at pretty much full health at the moment. If you have an overarching view here, a lot of his troops have just kind of run off. And a lot of my hounds have been chasing down troops. They're kind of sitting idle at the moment, but they would have chased down whoever this was here, and you can see the bodies all slumped on the floor. So they're just chasing down off the remnants. I quite like this in an army, having a few kind of cheap units just to chase down. Really helps your opponent not be able to bring anything back in. And it really is now just Malekith against the tide of... I guess these guys are kind of Vikings, or they're based off, fantasy Vikings. So they're getting in there. Good old Ragnar Lothbrok over here, pretending to be Wulfric the Wanderer, chasing down some units, and he'll be popping back in a sec to help finish off Malekith. So he's been pinned in now by the mass of these Marauder Horsemen. He has nowhere to go, and these big wolves and all these Marauders slowly going to drag him down. So there we go, a Pyrrhic victory. My first ever game of Norsca, so I was very happy with that. Let's go see the end stats here. So overall, I feel like my army performed pretty well. The Berserkers got in there, they tore up the front line rather quickly, and they seem to trade fairly efficiently with Witch Elves. I need to have a little bit of analysis, look a little bit deeper and see who actually costs more points. But the main thing that I believe helped me in this game was managing to finish off these Cold One Knights really early. Double teaming them with the Wolves and the Skin Wolves, using magic and a bit of that range poke to really shut them down. Well, then it became much more of a slog in the front line. The Skin Wolves and the Wolf pressure shut down the Shades. They were able to help in the main fight. The whole time I have a load of throwing axes coming in and doing some damage. So well played to my opponent there, fought to the very end. S34467. I'm coming up against a lot of people at the moment who just have numbers as their name. I don't know if this is some kind of weird trend, or I'm kind of against the same people, who knows. But I really enjoyed Norsca. They're kind of very Viking-like. I'm big on Norse mythology, so I'll be hopefully doing a few more games of them. I've had mixed results with Norsca now, so it's my first game. Did a few more, trying to use the same build, and I think it needs a bit of tweaking. It's quite nice, quite fun build for my first game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Now, would I recommend this build to a beginner? It's tough to say. Norsca seem fairly hard to play. I mean, a lot of it is kind of just getting in the front line and doing some damage, and Wulfric is great. He's really good assassin, but at the same time, he's pretty squishy, and often I've ended up losing Wulfric in stupid situations and kind of, throwing him away. And as soon as your leader goes down, Norscans don't have the best leadership, and everything can fall apart quite quickly. So it's a little bit tough to use, but let me know how you guys find Norsca, and see, what you want next from me. I've got my first ever High Elf game coming up, and my first ever Dwarf game, so you've got those to look forward to. Right guys, cheers for tuning in. Peace, peace.